I would attribute it to a male addiction to pornography. What happened with the advent of pornography is the natural instinct of a man is to feel an element of disgust when they see the woman they desire with another man. That's our natural instinct. As a man, when you see the woman you love or you care about or you desire even with another man, it makes you feel a bit sick. What pornography has done is taken the woman you desire the most, have you literally watch her with another man, and instead of being repelled, the sensations, your brain has been hijacked, and the desires and all of the dopamine and all the reaction you're getting has been hijacked. So your normal repulsion has been replaced with intense desire. So what would have normally caused you to feel repulsed by a woman is now making you want her more.
All right, so here we go. We're going to make this one short and sweet, but we're coming to a close on 2024, so I figured 2025 is where we're going to have to put a goal to improve our relationships and make it happen. So I have Sadia on there. You just heard what she was saying, and you know what? I couldn't agree more with the premise of what's really causing a lot of issues at the core of the intimacy of our relationships. We're just going to start with that, is male addiction to pornography. You know, I know both sides watch it and things like that. And I'd like for you to just get out of your mind the hardest, you know, when people say that, they just think like Pornhub mode, you know, get that out of your mind. Just think pornographically minded. You know, it doesn't matter. Once you could just be looking at Instagram all day, but if you're always just looking at girls and objectifying them, right, you're already getting that, you have a distorted view of how to view women. And then, you know, once we get into sex work, it's another level of, you know, how can we actually have an intimate relationship with someone if that intimacy that's supposed to just be for husband and wife is broken, and you're watching other people have sex with someone, even if it's not your girl. You know, if you're watching these things all the time, the idea that you're going to have when it comes to the intimacy with your partner is going to be so far off keel. It's going to be so basically, there's a problem there. There's like a mental health problem in your intimacy for the relationship. So where I really want to ground this, and if we're going to actually make improvements in our relationships, we have to have a standard, you know. And when we talk about loving each other in this relationship that can get to that place where there's intimacy, a lot of times people put obscurity on love, but we need to actually have a basic parameter on that. And what I'm going to posit to you is love needs to be a decision followed by emotion, not emotion that guides all your decisions. Now, you're going to find that biblically, absolutely. You're going to find that in any quality relationship here on earth, okay, even if you're not a Christian. But for the Christians out there, think of the book of Ruth. You know, it was all about a decision based upon how God had designed husband and wife and husband kinsman, and how he would redeem his wife. And, you know, there was a process through how that went. Even though Ruth had went to Boaz, he had to go to the elders to make sure this was okay. There was a process. Now, it's not about, I'm not trying to get us into this whole, you know, being traditional and arranged marriages, or, you know, the man needs to be the one who takes care of everything and the woman just stays at home. I'm saying the opposite of that, okay? I'm saying that husband and wife are equal, especially in the eyes of God. There are roles, absolutely. But at the same time, within those roles, we always say we love each other, but we never really actually define what that means, or is there a standard behind that? Now, for this particular video, let's just stick with that basic definition, that it's a decision followed by emotion. Now, in that case, then you have an idea. Now you can say, okay, I'm making a decision to love this person, right? And in that sense, we should be able to outline some parameters. Now, as we go into next year, if you're somebody like me, you know, I'm coming to you guys not in any good relationship. I'm not in a relationship. I haven't had a good relationship in a long, long time. So I'm not coming over here trying to give you advice. I'm coming over here sharing with you some of the experiences that I've had, but also some basic things that we can all lean on that are going to help any relationship, especially people that already have a fear and reverence for God. So I'm going to start you with a scripture, 1 Corinthians 7, starting on verse 2. But because of temptation to sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife, and each woman her own husband. The husband should give his wife her conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. This is the key part right here. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time, that you may devote yourselves to prayer, but then come back together, so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. So, reason I put this in here is this is the principle we should be following, is that either person doesn't have authority over the other person's, when you're in a relationship, the other person has authority over your body, not in an abusive way. You probably already went to the abusive thoughts. Not in an abusive way, in a way to signify selflessness in the relationship. That's what this is here talking about, because even back in, if you go back to the book of Ruth, it's all about redemption. It's about Boaz redeeming Ruth from her particular situation and being her kinsman redeemer, laying himself down and taking her on as his responsibility and his wife. He made a decision, and then the love and the emotions followed. That's the idea. This is what we find biblically. This is what you would find in reality if you knew somebody who's been together for over 50 years, let's just say, or you know what, even over 30 years. It's always going to be a decision. And I know that much because I've seen it. And I trust what God says in Scripture. So if we think about what we're dealing with today, with sex workers and things like that, and if we can ground it in that definition, that love is a decision followed by emotion, then what decisions can we make? We can make decisions as men to get away from pornography, number one. That's the number one thing. I'll tell you right now, I've already given it up, and it's not an easy thing. You know, it's not like something that people want to talk about, or it's not something that people want to talk about. But at the same time, it's not about get away from the ideas of all the deep, dark stuff. I'm just saying this way. This is the way I've always said it. If you like sex, you like porn. So I'm pretty sure everybody dabbles in whatever capacity, even if you're just looking a little too long on the street. Okay, you don't have to get into the hardcore thoughts, okay, with this conversation. But give it up. Get away from that idea. It's not going to go away quick because we've been living, our whole society's based off of this. Any movie you see, any TV show you see, it's all pornographic. Always, all the time. Every woman is objectified, and many of the men are starting to become objectified. How many times now, you know, we already had nudity with women. Now it seems like every show or every movie you watch, you got to have full frontals with the guys. And you're just like, come on, what is this shit? You know, we don't want to see this. And it's this objectification. It's this pornographic mindedness. And we got to make a decision to fight away from that, to push away from that. And I know if we can make a decision to fight against that, the way that we fight against other unhealthy habits, that we can have better relationships next year. Whether you're in a relationship, whether you're trying to get in a relationship, whether you're, I guess those are the only two options, but one of those two, whatever it may be, you're in a courtship, maybe you're in an engagement, maybe you're, who knows, whatever level of relationship, maybe you're already married, you know? So no matter which way it goes, okay, this is something we can anchor ourselves to, because we always just say, yeah, I love you, but we never actually put any thought into that it's a decision followed by emotion. And after we're together, we know that because we start making all these decisions that oftentimes the other person doesn't really like. And it's like, wait a minute, we used to have this great chemistry going on, but you've been making all these decisions that I'm not really digging it all that much. See what I mean? And so at the tail end, what I'll finish with is, yes, with what Sadia was saying, this idea of putting up on a pedestal sex workers, period, whatever capacity. It's horrible, and I believe it is very true. I believe it. I don't know as much as she does. She specializes with high net worth people, but I just can only imagine, based on everything else that is going on how we just, you know, completely idolize money. And if they're making money hand over foot, right, like ridiculous, pretty soon all the young girls are going to aspire to do that, especially with all the guys giving those girls attention, right? So we got to make a decision. We have to make a decision. in the year of 2025, let's make a decision not to fall into these small things that most people will never even call you out on. Nobody's going to go through your phone. Nobody's going to say, hey, you're looking too long, or hey, don't be checking that girl out, or don't, whatever it is. Nobody's going to say nothing to you about these things. But I will tell you, relationships are going to fall apart as they have continued, as they have in the past. And they're going to do it again in next year. And it's going to keep going because we know that the social media, the screens, just the algorithms, the way that they know what you want to see, they're just getting better and better and better, And so if we don't get ahead of this, if we don't just ground ourselves in scripture, something like what we just read, and hold on to that, what do we have left? What do we have left for our kids? Think about it. What are we teaching our kids right now? If you have young kids, what are they going to be walking into in 10 years, in a decade? So I think it's something that we really need to get serious about. I think it's something that we can do because you don't have to take big steps. You don't have to be like, oh, okay, I'm cutting off everything. Just acknowledge it. The first part is just to acknowledge these things that I do by, let's just say, objectifying the opposite sex. For us guys, objectifying women in every capacity. I'm the chief of it, okay? I'm not trying to put any judgment on anybody. We have to start pushing away from that. Otherwise, what are we teaching the next person we're going to be with? If the first thing we think about, is what they look like, and then the first thing that they see us do is our wandering eyes and things like that. And they know. Anybody knows when somebody has an addiction to not just sex, but just objectification of women. It's easy to see because they can't control themselves, So once you start going down that road, you want to start pumping the brakes. I know we can do that next year. I know we can do that, whatever level we're at right now. And I think that's the small little piece that we can start with. And then from there, we'll just keep kicking ass and we'll find out what else we can do. We're just going to see what next year actually brings. All right, you guys have a good one. We'll talk to you on the next one.